Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. This is our continued coverage of the Richard Allen trial. He's accused of killing Abby and Libby in Delphi, February 13th, 2017. And as of today, the defense rests their case. So I think we'll start this live stream like we started the last few. We'll go over the recap. Some things I think we should focus in on. Betsy Blair and her testimony about the car. I think that's more Frank's memo lies, so we can spend some time there. The defense brought forward an expert stating that headphones or something was plugged into Libby's phone from 5:45 p.m. to 10:33 p.m., so just about 5 hours. We'll ask the question, can water cause this? Did the defense do a good job in refuting the bullet evidence? We have the Walla versus Westcott, and the defense trying to convince the jury that Richard Allen was crazy when he confessed. Good to see you, Julia. Jennifer, what is up? Okay, so if you guys want to participate in the poll, the question is, did Richard Allen's defense team do enough? You can respond with yes, there is reasonable doubt. Yes, he is innocent. Hard to represent a guilty man. They poked holes. It's up to the jury now. Right now, the majority of you have selected hard to represent a guilty man. I think that's where I'm at right now. What's up, Hather's Mirror, CJK, MF Witchy Widow, TJ, Pipers, Patty, good morning. Angela, No Effects, Miss Mala, Loxy. Yes, without moving the phone, right? The expert responds by saying, yes, I guess it's possible. I guess the killer is a ninja. Good morning, Sparky. Christine, Periwinkle, Butterfly. Good morning, Heather. Yeah, at some point today, it's all over the news right now. That's it. What's up, Courtney? Susan, CJK. That's all they have left now is closing arguments. What's up, Tabs? Stop that right now. Cindy Lean, good to see you. All right, I think that's everybody. All right, let's go over this recap. It's not very long. Cindy's asking, did Kathy Allen not testify? That's what I'm hearing. Doesn't look like she's going to testify. Unless I missed that part. Don't quote me on that. Welcome in, Gail. Saska Rose. I think it's really a simple answer, Julia. If you ask me, it's water damage. A little of that's coming from personal experience and common sense. And maybe even proof that these experts are willing to be dishonest. It's either you're not an expert or you're being dishonest. One or the other. What's going on, Brett Decker? And C. Elaine. Courtney says it's for sure water damage. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. That's the first thing I thought of with the all the weirdness going on with the phone. Like, didn't it just go through the creek? It's like, all right. Starting to feel like I'm the only one that's ever lost or dropped my phone in water and had to do a bunch of weird stuff. Guess you guys have been fortunate. Good to see you, Olivia. And C. Amber Adams in the clouds. What's up? All right. So, brief summary of day 16, which was yesterday. Tuesday's first testimony came from Betsy Blair, a witness who told police she saw a bridge guy on the Monon High Bridge in Delphi. She said she went to the trails 2 times on February 13th, 2017. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, why'd you go twice? But left for good around 2:15 p.m. She told the jury she left through the Mears entrance, turned left, and saw one vehicle in the CPS lot. It was backed into the parking spot and not a bright color, according to Blair. So remember, the Franks memo, the defense wanted to kind of leak it out there and even use it as an alibi, really, that Betsy Blair saw something much older, nothing like Richard Allen's Ford Focus hatchback. But here, that's just not true. She told the defense she only saw the side of the vehicle and couldn't tell if it was a hatchback like Richard Allen's vehicle. After a brief cross examination, Blair told the jury the CPS building was abandoned, so it couldn't have belonged to an employee or someone inside. Next on the stand was Dr. Stuart Gracian. Gracian is a Harvard educated and has been on faculty at Harvard University School of Medicine for 25 years. He said he has a special interest in what solitary confinement does to someone's mental health. He has interviewed hundreds of people in those conditions. Gracian reviewed reports from Allen's psychologist in Westville, Dr. Monica Walla, and said Allen met the requirements for slipping into psychosis and giving his environment and lack of mental stimulus. He also said solitary confinement can cause behaviors noted from Allen, like smearing feces and acting out sexually. He also said the conditions can always impact memory and define the difference between solitary and protective custody. He later told the jury that a normal person could absolutely become psychotic after being in solitary confinement for more than 6 months. Gracian left the stand and the defense called Dr. Eric Warren. He's a tool mark specialist based out of Memphis. We'll pause there for a moment. Thanks, Brett. Welcome in, Mustang and Growing Crazy. Okay, so we heard that Betsy Blair, she never really talks about a comet. They tried to tie in this older model vehicle into Betsy Blair. I think what they were trying to do was tie in what Brad Heath was kind of explaining what he witnessed. He said an older model car. So, I mean, they just flat out lied in the Franks memo. So I hope nobody that's out there listening to this is using that at all. At this point, we should just be throwing that away. What's going on, Joe Newman? Julia says, I don't get why someone plugging in headphones when the phone was found under Abby's shoe. What makes it different whether or not Richard Allen was the killer or not? Defense trying to distract the jury, in my opinion. Well, I think they can account for Richard Allen at some point at night. I'm assuming at some point later in the day, he's with his family. So they know, okay, he's at home at this point. So if they can create an alibi in a roundabout way, that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, how is Richard Allen over here with his family and also over here messing with Libby's phone? But the truth is, in my mind, nobody's messing with Libby's phone. The killer messed with it by forcing it to get wet. And now it's reacting to that damage. That's my opinion. Welcome in Amber Adams. Same with the car. He said he was there. Why does it matter whose car it is? He already inserted himself. Thank you, Sparky. I don't know, TJ. I don't think so. I don't know how that works. That's the part I'm so confused about. The most important piece of information is nobody's even touching it. And it's a simple question like, what were you doing? Tell me what you did from the moment you woke up on the 13th to when you went to sleep. Tell me about your day. In the cloud says, when my phone gets wet, it starts shopping for me. I've actually had a phone get wet. It was an Android. It wasn't an iPhone, but it went into headphone mode. So I couldn't play anything. Couldn't use the speakers. What's up, Beth? She Warrior, welcome in. T Lemon, what's up? Dirt, water in it poured, which made it seem like it had headphones. Exactly. And we'll spend some time on that. I got something for you guys on that. Okay, let's continue on here. Dr. Eric Warren, a tool mark specialist based out of Memphis. He said he was asked by the defense to review tool mark conclusions made by Melissa Oberg, a former firearms analyst who examined the bullet found by Libby and Abby's bodies and Richard Allen's gun. He described the different characteristics of a bullet, including class, subclass, and individual, and explained the difference between cycling and firing a bullet. So I've noticed with these experts, they kind of give a crash course in tool mark or forensics before they kind of get into what their opinion is. Warren then confirmed that Oberg used a fired round to compare the cycled round to, which he said wasn't right, as it isn't repeatable and reproducible, and also produced different markings on the cartridge. Prosecutor James Luttrell began his cross-examination, asking if Warren, only looking at the report and photos and not physical evidence, would impact his ability to draw conclusions. But Warren disagreed. He said Oberg didn't examine the actual extractor in the gun to determine if there were potential subclass characteristics. So I think what that means is to see if there was anything unique or specific to that actual piece on Richard Allen's gun, maybe damage or wear and tear. I think that's what that means, subclass. Defense attorney Brad Rosie then showed Warren a picture of triangular marks on the cartridge, which are ejector marks. He says those were hallmark of subclass characteristics. All right, maybe that means it's more likely to be found in the subclass. So, yeah, scratch that from the record. After a short break, Rosie continued questioning Warren, asking about characteristics of firearms, including force of the slide, if there was research on slide integrity over time, and the quality of the Sig Sauer. He said the slide force was a blueprint characteristic, and the Sig Sauer should maintain integrity over time. Luttrell began his cross-examination, asking Warren about cartridge characteristics. After a back and forth about cartridges, where Luttrell was hammering into Warren on why he didn't request or physically examine the cartridge and gun. Rosie asked if Warren wrote a report. He said no, but said he was available to the defense when they wanted to depose him, but he was in Morocco. The jury asked Warren 16 questions. Here are a few. Would individual markings be different depending on who cycles? Warren says documentation of Oberg does not support conclusion. What are the chances that the cartridge at the scene matches the test bullets? Warren says higher likelihood of guns just in Indiana. What? Higher likelihood of guns just in Indiana. That doesn't make any sense. Would removing, cleaning, disassembling change individual characteristics of a firearm? Warren says no, only if there was some sort of damage. All right, we'll pause right there. Doesn't look like it. What's up, Andy? Maybe. That's me. Good morning. All right. Looks like the next witness was Stacy Eldridge. She's an expert in computer information management. She examined Libby German's cell phone after Indiana State Police's investigation. She even throws a couple cheap shots there at the investigators, saying if they would have used the right technology, she would have had a lot more information. She basically said they didn't do everything that they could do. Thank you, Jennifer. What's up, Shane? Welcome in. Okay, so this is Stacy Eldridge. She examined Libby German's cell phone after Indiana State Police's investigation. She explained what tools she used to examine the phone, primarily Axiom, opposed to ISP's use of Celebrite. Axiom is basically it pulls all the data off of your phone. It'll find all of your emails, anything that was deleted, any photos that have been deleted, text messages, phone calls. So anything that's ever been on the phone, whether it's been deleted or not, can be pulled with Axiom as long as it in a certain amount of time. Celebrite is used, it's kind of like a third party company, and law enforcement will use them and that software to pull data from it. That's what was used to recover the data on Keegan Klein's phones, was Celebrite. So apparently she used Axiom, not Celebrite. Similar, but not the same. She told the jury there were 3 level 6 extractions you can do for pulling data, each of them pulling a different amount of information. Libby's extraction from early 2017 only covered basic information. Eldridge said ISP had the capacity to do a full extraction in early 2017, but didn't until later that year. She said this caused issues and caused the loss of current power log data, which stays saved between a phone being turned all the way off and on. Eldridge says that log can also say if the phone went into airplane mode. She said her priority was figuring out what was going on with the phone at 4:34 a.m. on February 14th, 2017, to make the phone receive multiple text messages. After a brief sidebar from Judge Gohl, Eldridge left the witness stand to discuss her report on Libby's phone. She said she generally agrees with the state's expert's examination, but there are things she disagrees with about Libby's examination. She didn't agree with some of the times, texts, calls, and FaceTimes delivered between February 13th and 14th. Eldridge said Libby's phone last connection time was February 14th at 4:33 a.m. and before that, 5:45 p.m. on February 13th, and said there is evidence messages were received during that time period. Some texts did have timestamps, but weren't received until February 17th. Eldred said she doesn't know why the phone did not ping in that time frame, even though it was under Abby's back and was stationary. She said, I can only conclude something external happened to the phone, meaning it could have been moved, blocked by metal, or have been blocked from the tower. She said she now knows that at 5:45 p.m. to 10:32 p.m. on February 13th, the phone had wired headphones plugged in. At 3:09 p.m., prosecutor Nick McClelland starts cross-examination. He asked Eldridge about her training on cell phone extraction. She said this is the first time she has testified about cell phone extraction, other than in July. She said she mainly focused on the phone's health data and also reviewed the Bridge Guy video. She said that the phone wouldn't have logged movement if it were in a car, and couldn't find evidence that the phone was turned off. Libby's phone appeared to be hopping in and out of service. She added that phone movement to plug in headphones could have registered as health data, but she didn't test that, and there could have been a signal blocking on the phone. The jury asked Eldridge 6 questions, including if she wrote her own timeline for the cell data, if it could be connected to Libby's iPad, and if she could review Alan's location timeline if he was using a phone. She said she didn't have time to make a timeline. The iPad and phone weren't synced, and she could track Alan's timeline if it was available, but it's not. The last session Tuesday began with Gohl scolding the jury for talking and said she would kick out anyone talking in court. That must have been from the grueling videos that they played. Remember, they had to sit there in silence and watch those horrible videos of Richard Allen singing and touching himself. The final 2 witnesses were ISP First Sergeant Chris Cecil and ISP Lieutenant Brian Bunner. The defense asked Cecil to explain an audio output start, but he said he didn't know and also didn't have the knowledge to explain why a cell phone would or wouldn't connect to a cell phone tower or a cell tower. McClelland began his cross-examination, starting by saying he Googled a question the jury asked to Eldridge. They asked if a phone made contact with water, would the phone register it as movement? According to Google, a phone could register water or dirt in the headphone port as having headphones plugged in. So instead of answering one question, they found the answer to another, which really is common sense. So this person saying that she's an expert, she's really just she's not being honest at all. And I think the jury's going to see that. The defense redirects, asking Cecil if he Googles things while conducting a criminal investigation. Cecil said he didn't and normally looks over peer-reviewed research. The defense asked, "You and the state have had 7.5 years to research this." That's correct. So basically saying you've had 7.5 years to investigate it, and now you're Googling it. Like, is that what you've been doing with new information? You just Google it. So that was kind of a burn there. But really, they don't have anything, in my opinion. And here is the most up-to-date information. So at 9:36 a.m., News 8's Kyla Russell confirmed the defense rested their case Wednesday morning. The defense only took 6 days to call forward over 20 witnesses to present their case, nearly half as many as the prosecution. According to notes shared by a pool reporter, the defense officially rested at 9:07 a.m. State Prosecutor Nick McClellan requested a sidebar with Special Judge Fran Gohl. Gohl said several witnesses weren't available yet, so she dismissed the jury for a quick break. She then asked to set jury instructions with the attorneys, including relating to the defendant not testifying and prior inconsistent statements. The defense left to discuss the instructions in private and returned to the courtroom around 9:50 a.m. The courtroom awaited their return in total silence. Or else, right? McClellan chimed in and said the state had no objections to the instructions as proposed, but prosecutor Andrew Baldwin, he's not a prosecutor, prosecutor Andrew Baldwin drew attention to instruction regarding if Richard Allen testified or not. The poll reporter noted that instructions about jurors not drawing inferences out of absence of testimony is different from passages he'd seen before, but he accepts the modified language. Defense attorney Brad Rosie asked for time until the afternoon to finalize instructions relating to jurors judging credibility of Allen's incriminating statements, whether they were voluntary or involuntary. Gohl said she planned to give the jurors instructions before closing statements and will limit the argument lengths to 2 to 2.5 hours. The 2 hours is a long time for folks to be sitting in these really uncomfortable chairs, Gohl said. Russell reported that court was in recess until 10 a.m. The next step in the trial is closing arguments from the prosecution and defense. Then it will turn to the jury to make final decisions. I don't know. I don't think they've done enough. All right, let's look at this water damage thing. Well, let me catch up on the chat, and then we'll look at this whole water damage thing, and I'll give you my opinion. What's up, Melissa Wildcard? Karev? Yeah, that's what he was doing. She scolded the jury. They aren't kindergartners. They were that day. What's up, Cheeks? Says, God bless America. Hey, what's up, Kitty? How you doing? Says, clowns. Yeah, I don't think they did enough. Prosecution was clear and concise. They got right to the point. Here's the evidence. Here's how it relates to Richard Allen. And that's it. We're done. That's our case. And then it's like the defense came stumbling in drunk or something. So it didn't take me long to find these. These were on the iPhone official website. The poster's name was Jackson4568. He says here, headphone mode stuck after water got in port. I think this one has to do with his iPad, but it's the same thing here. It says, this morning I was taking a bath and had my iPad on the ledge of the tub checking assignments when I got a text and reached for my phone on the toilet. Then as I retracted my arm, I knocked my iPad into the water, but my leg was there, so it didn't get all the way in. It was probably a second when I got it out and threw a towel over it and wrapped it up. I sat there for an hour and everything seemed fine but the audio. This isn't the first time this happened since I once got moisture in the headphone jack and it did the same thing. When I go to test it, if it's wet with a curled up toothpick, it came out dry, yet the audio is still not working. It's been like 12 hours. What can I do to fix this? Here's one specifically for the iPhone 6. This guy was kind of funny, so I wanted to share it. He says, oh, his name is Fly's Eyes. Saw a bunch of posts on this, and some of the answers are pretty stupid. In fact, some are malicious. There is no software reset, reboot, network reset steps to do this. The headphone jack is dirty and or got wet. It's that simple. The phone thinks there is a jack in there, so it's stuck in headphone mode. One suggestion was to stick a paper clip in the jack. That will potentially damage your phone and jack. How stupid can one be? Here's a fix that is safe and works. Use a cotton swab to rub alcohol or contact cleaner on the headphone jack, cable jack, and insert it in a few times. And here's a video by a YouTuber named Christopher Dungeon. And if you want to watch the full video, the link is in the description. But I think this explains it quite well. All right. So this is a simple explanation by this gentleman here.
Have recently noticed that your speakers stop working on your iPhone. If this happens to you, it may not just be the speaker. What might be the problem is that your phone is actually in headphone mode. Your headphone jack is telling your phone that you have headphones in when you really don't. Now, why is this happening? Because there are pins inside the headphone jack that could get stuck for numerous reasons. You could have lint in there, or you may have recently gotten your phone in water. That's a pretty common cause.
Boom. So the defense seems to be using easily explained items, as if they're dropping bombs in the courtroom. So I don't think they did enough, in my opinion. What's up, Chris? What's going on, Sensei? No, I wouldn't put too much weight into anything that Doug Carter's saying. He's just there to shield the investigators from the press. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that, Molly. I know there's going to be 2 separate trials. I think there'll be a sentencing hearing or a trial after this, right? Joseph says the defense had nothing. Yeah, they didn't bring up Richard Allen's alibi whatsoever. If you're not here killing Abby and Libby, what are you doing? Where are you? That should have been easy for them to explain. Exactly, Andy. It's impossible. People that were at the trials earlier would have seen Richard Allen. Nobody reported seeing him. And if he didn't kill the girls, people would have reported seeing him after 2:15. That didn't happen either. TJ, how do you guys think the jury is going to feel when they go home and Google all the other crazy shit that has happened in this case they weren't aware of? It's good that they don't. You know, we've been obsessed with this case. You have to kind of strip that obsession away and everything that comes along with it and try to look through the jury's eyes. You know, fresh pair of eyes. Everything's a bombshell, right? The fact that Richard Allen was there, they played the video, and I guarantee they're looking at that video going, damn, that looks like that dude. Sounds like that dude. Wait, what? He came forward and said he was there? What the hell? And you found his bullet and you matched it to his gun. You tested 8 other guns and only Richard Allen's was an actual match. What about the DNA? Well, there's no DNA. We don't have any male DNA. It's not that we don't have Richard Allen's DNA, it's that we don't have any male perpetrator, any male profile whatsoever. So that includes Richard Allen, right? So it doesn't matter who did this unless you're trying to say that it wasn't a man. Then you'd have to convince me that the bridge guy isn't a man. Good Stephen King book. I like Stephen King books. I don't like Stephen King, but I like his books. When you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Yep. That's what they did to Richard Allen's his case. Here. We got you a beauty of a case here, Richard. Joseph Ash says Libby's video of Bridge Guy is the only reason he was ever caught. 100%. Without that, you wouldn't be able to have those witnesses who Richard Allen says he saw, and they say, "Hey, I saw him." We wouldn't be able to hear them say, "Hey, well, the guy we saw is the guy that's in Libby's video." Without that, there is no case. Without Richard Allen coming forward, okay, now remember, I've told you guys this on my channel for years now. The same thing that causes these folks to go out and kill is the same thing that gets them caught in the end. It's this overactive imagination. It's this obsession there. You know, what did I do? What did I forget to do? What could I have done better? I'm smart enough, you know, to outsmart the investigators. So they inject themselves because they want to glean information and they also want to kind of direct the investigation into another, you know, into another direction, trajectory. What's going on, Darlene? Star Girl, welcome in. They do have the death penalty. Baldwin and Rosie are both death penalty qualified, but I don't think the prosecution was seeking the death penalty. The death penalty will often put a whole lot of pressure on a jury. I don't think the prosecution wanted to add that. What's up, Purple? Well, the way they make it sound is a phone call came in, and right as that phone call came in, headphones, the headphone jack or the auxiliary cable jack was activated. But I think the phone vibrating or something electrical could have triggered that. And they're saying that went on from 5:45 p.m. to 10:33 p.m. So just about for 5 hours. I'm assuming the headphone jack or port is beginning to dry out, right? I mean, the jury's not that stupid. So if you're telling me that you're an expert and you don't think water could cause this, it's at that point that I know that you're full of shit. What she should have said was, yeah, it could have caused this because it's obvious that that's possible. You don't need to be an expert to know that. But she should have said it's not likely. And then explained why. Like, yes, the girls' bodies were wet, their clothing was wet, but they weren't that wet. Or we don't believe they were completely submerged in water. Something along those lines. I like turtles. Yes, the defense is done now. All we have left now is closing arguments, and it's up to the jury. Darlene says, why would Cecil not have testified about this to begin with? The Googling at the break, putting him back on, it got into it. Wasn't his responsibility to check water damage? Yeah, I don't know if anybody's come forward and said, yes, the phone was water damaged. Has that even been discussed? That's a good question. Like, maybe we should start there, right? All these damn phone experts, was there water damage to the phone? Do we know that? Maybe I missed it. What's going on yonder? My phone always thinks my AirPods are being used even in the other room. What's up, little one? Miss Smalla, who examined the phones and when was it done? Well, the most recent one was done, I think, sometime after Richard Allen's arrest. All right, guys, make sure you vote on this poll. Question is, did Richard Allen's defense team do enough? We're going to close this down here in a minute. I think today's going to be a quick stream. I think you're referring to exculpatory. I think that's illegal. Yep, wearing the same clothes as BG, looking like the bridge guy. He has absolutely no alibi. Oh, we got a scrub report. Thanks, Hather. Says 348 in chat, 76 likes. Please hit the like and share. Yeah, if you guys could, hit the like button. Go share this on your X feed. You know you're going there anyway. Shane says, very hard to take away what we knew. Well, I found it difficult anyway. It is hard. You know? It's very hard. That's why every piece of information is going to be like a bombshell to the jury. Like, what? What's going on, Turquoise? I second that. Dark Side, what's up? He would have never came forward. I think he just made a series of mistakes. Like, I think his family knew he was at the trails. So if they're watching the news and they're like, hey, they found these two girls that were brutally murdered, you need to come forward. Oh, yeah, I'll call. Here, I'll call him right now. Calls the tip line. Tip line calls him back, but he refuses, right? He refuses. Nope, don't come to my home. All right, will you come to the police station? Oh, hell no, I'm not going to the police station. I might not ever come out of there. I'll meet you at the grocery store. I'm going there anyway because I'm a father. I'm married. I have a kid. I'm a little guy, a little old me. Plus, he knows that a few people saw him. So, better that he comes forward than they come looking for him. He just got lucky. He got lucky, or somebody helped hide that folder. We heard that there were civilian volunteers responding to the tip line. ISP blamed the FBI. And vice versa. Yeah, that's true, Blue Line. Did the prosecution do enough? It only takes one for a hung jury. So did they do enough to get them all in there? Get them all on the same page? Or off? It's a pretty close race between yes, there is reasonable doubt, and hard to represent a guilty man. So you got one more minute and then we're closing out the poll. What's up, kitty cat? He had the means and opportunity, his own admission of being there, uncoerced confessions, the video, the witnesses, a van, being remorseful for killing Abby should prove his guilt. You didn't even mention that bullet. Myron, MAGA baby, also not guilty. We'll allow it. None of your business says, I think what actually convicts him is his own admissions. Yeah, that's huge. He kind of tied himself into that whole thing. If it wasn't for Libby's video and if it wasn't for Richard Allen kind of coming forward, they wouldn't have been able to tie those two things together with the witnesses. So, like I said, the same mindset that causes these people to commit murders is the same thing that gets them caught in the end. It's compulsion. Right? Oh, yeah. The jury asked her, so could water cause this? No. Right there, I'd be like, what? Steve from True Crime Web. What I learned from the trial, prosecution, CS details, 2, confession details, 3, the van. Crime scene details, confession details. Yeah, that's a lot. And I think the jury having to watch those videos, like, yuck. Who knows what they're thinking? Maybe they're thinking, oh, poor Richard. Or they're thinking, oh, this is that sick killer. Seems very risky. Nope, no rebuttal, Turquoise. It's going to be final arguments, and then that's it. It's up to the jury. So the expert said she didn't know if it was water damaged. Crazy. Easy, Eddie. Yep, he checked any boxes that he didn't check. Yeah, there was nothing presented by the defense to help Richard Allen. All they did was kind of chase the prosecution around. Like, nah, nah. I don't think they did enough. But why didn't they do enough? I think it's hard to represent a guilty man, and it's not easy. But we're going to end this poll. Let's take a look at these results. So, did Richard Allen's team do enough? 39% of you said hard to represent a guilty man. 30% say yes. There is reasonable doubt. So, that's pretty close. 16% say they poked holes. It's up to the jury now. And 12% say yes, they did do enough, considering he is innocent. Thank you, Shane, for a super chat. Hopefully everyone concerned gets justice. Thank you for that. Thank you, Tabitha. Tabs. And Ziggy. Appreciate you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. What's going on, Daisy? Hope you're having a great day at work. My 4-year bad mood is finally over. I like it. Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere easy. What's going on, Brad? Shout out to the lurkers. All right, guys, we're going to keep you posted on everything that happens pertaining to Richard Allen's trial. Looks like it's getting ready to wrap up. Welcome in, G's. Appreciate you. What's up, Jerry? Andy says, I still say the circumstantial evidence is truly overwhelming, plus the confessions. There is no doubt in my mind it was him. What's going on, Todd? Yep, the prosecution presents a very simple story with evidence, witnesses, timeline, and confessions. Like, it's very easy to just kind of play out in your mind. Very easy to follow. The defense is very complex, requires disregarding everything. Kitty says his flipping friend said he was cleared. How did he know? Yeah, what happened to that folder? Who put cleared on there? Why is ISP and the FBI fighting against each other? Maybe it was somebody on the FBI that was trying to cover for Richard Allen. There's a conspiracy for you, right? Didn't they mess up the Marathon gas station footage? Weren't they there the day of the search? And weren't they involved in losing the lost tip? Go follow that conspiracy. Get to the bottom of that. And then you have Doug Carter kicking him out. What's up, Sybil? Says he sure did check all the boxes. Mark and Indy, what's up? I leaned more towards guilty as we got closer to the start of the trial, but was never able to get beyond reasonable doubt. Had he not called the tip line in the early days, no one would have a clue. Maybe. I think him calling the tip line did buy him some time. That's his style. That's his MO. Unorganized killer, but he seems to be able to clean things up pretty well to an extent, right? So if he wouldn't have come forward, I think they would have came looking for him. Not only that, people in his own family and his own that come in contact with him in the day to day may have known he was at the trail. If he doesn't come forward, they're going to report him. So it's like, if I got to roll the dice, my only option is to come forward. Because if they come looking for me, now I'm going to have this guilty appearance to it, you know? Carroll County reporter said there would be rebuttal after morning break. Thanks, Olivia. Yeah, I don't even know if they're still in session or what. I often think about that, Joseph. Joseph says, after Richard Allen is found guilty and knows he's never getting out, maybe he will have stories to tell about other victims. Hard to believe he didn't snap until he was almost 50 years old. Yep. And if he is a psychopath, like I've always suspected he was, he's going to want to dangle that in front of people. You know, that little cat and mouse game they like to play. But also, he might even just open up a little bit more about what happened to him as a child. That was part of my amateur profile. And it is amateur hour when it comes to my profile. But it's the price you pay to play is you have to suffer through my amateur profiles. But yeah, Richard Allen fits right in with that profile. And I always said he would most likely have some stories to say about early childhood abuse, issues with him being adopted, and pretty much feelings of abandonment. And we're learning about that. You know, apparently he is suffering from things associated with his father abandoning him, some issues that have caused his personality disorder. What is a dependent personality disorder? Something like that. Is there a I think there is a psychologist on the jury. I think there's a nurse and something similar to a psychologist. So during deliberation, I think the rest of the jury is going to be leaning on those folks. I agree, darling. All right, let's go to a few more and then we're going to get out of here. Let's go to Growing Crazy. I also feel so bad for the guards having to put up with his behavior. They need a pay raise. Yeah, and to see how common it is, right? It seems to be a pattern. They put him in solitary confinement. They start going crazy from the loneliness. And then they start acting out to get attention. Well, the attention only brings the eyes, you know. But once they have the eyes on them, then they realize the rules, right? Like, they're not going to intervene unless I start hurting myself. And that's what Richard Allen was doing. He was, you know, just like every other prisoner, he was tearing pages out. He was flushing paper down the toilet. He was ripping pages out of his Bible. And sure enough, he was stripping his clothes off and rolling around in his feces, just like a lot of the cases that we saw or that we've covered when we're trying to look into what happens to the psyche, you know, once you're in solitary confinement for a certain amount of time. True psych word. Defense theory of dependent PD. Oh, there you go. Personality disorder also aligns with the killings. Yeah, that's the point I was making yesterday. Isn't that okay? Remember, it's amateur hour with my profile, but doesn't that fit into the profile? I said that Richard Allen most likely had a series of stressors, right? Daughter moves out, daughter gets married, brother-in-law dies, all within a short period of time. The brother-in-law dying had a really huge impact on Richard Allen's wife, Kathy. She was affected tremendously for that. So psychopaths, they're not going to look at, okay, well, my wife, she's suffering because she lost her brother. I know how that feels, right? I can only imagine what she's going through. That's not what a psychopath says. He says she's neglecting me. If he wouldn't have died, she wouldn't be neglecting me. No, everything's revolves around them. And not only that, it's just that they can't relate. He can't relate to what Kathy's going through. So, with these series of stressors, it kind of fits into the dependent personality disorder for him to kind of act out. And we're also hearing that he fell off the wagon. So, I think if the jury is seeing all these things, like, okay, this guy is obviously crazy. He suffers from alcoholism, and it sounds like he may have had a relapse the morning of the murders, based on maybe his childhood trauma. He's over there with his mother. He's over there with family members. Maybe they're bringing back old memories or something. What's up, you two bad actors? Welcome in. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I think we covered everything. If there's anything else to report or discuss, we'll be back tomorrow around the same time. Later today, we're going to try to have a members only live stream. So it'll be nothing too serious. We'll all just kind of kick back, talk about true crime, talk about whatever else is on our mind and get it off our chest, have a vent session, whatever. And special shout out again to Shane, Tabs, Ziggy, all of you mods, all of you members, and everybody who continues to donate to the Cash App and Venmo. You guys make this possible. And I'll see you guys again real soon. Peace.